Hey, what's going on, guys? Opening up our main card, we have an absolute banger of a fight. This fight has somehow flown very far under the radar. It is Umar Nurmagomedov versus Raoni Barcelos. This fight is going to be yet another installment of the Sambo versus Jiu-Jitsu saga. I am absolutely stoked about this one. Let's get it started by introducing our first fighter on the main card. Umar Nurmagomedov. He is fighting out of Dagestan, Russia, under good old Coach Khabib. Notably, Umar is the brother of Usman Nurmagomedov, who is the current Bellator lightweight champion, and cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov, one of, if not the greatest MMA fighters of all time. Umar is coming off of an incredibly dominant performance against Nate Maness. It was a unanimous decision victory, but it was not even close. The scores ranged anywhere from 30-25, I believe it was 30-25, 30-27, and 30-26, if I'm remembering correctly. It was absolute domination. And make no mistake, Nate Maness is an animal inside of his own right. Very, very skilled fighter. The problem when you're going up against somebody like Umar is not only does he have a fantastic ground game, his kicks are phenomenal. What this man will do is he will dismantle you with kicks, high kicks, low kicks, midsection, and there's nothing anybody has been able to do about it to this point. Generally, when somebody wants to throw a high kick at you, you would want to shoot for a takedown. That's at least one option you have. But going to the ground with Umar Nurmagomedov is the absolute last thing you want to do. The only real issue with Umar thus far is he's been relatively inactive, and honestly that's probably because people just don't want to fight this guy. He's unranked, he's an absolute monster, and most likely he's going to be the champion of this division. Now, it's preemptive to say that. He hasn't faced too much adversity, but looking at the top five, I don't really know who's going to be able to handle this guy's wrestling outside of maybe a Henry Cejudo, who's relatively old. And Umar's young, he's not even ranked. By the time he gets to the top, that's not even going to be a competitive fight. Umar is most likely going to dominate his way to, at the very least, title contention. And this brings us to his opponent. Raoni Barcelos is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter who is no slouch in the stand-up game either. He has a record of 17-3. He is 35 years old, and he is currently riding a one-fight win streak off of Trevin Jones. It was a very dominant performance where he punched his way into a takedown and just absolutely dominated pretty much all 15 minutes of the decision victory. Notably, this will not be Raoni's first Nurmagomedov. He does have a unanimous decision victory over Said Nurmagomedov in 2019, which has aged rather well, seeing as Said is on a 4-fight win streak since that loss. This will be another example of a Sambo versus Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fight. In most recent times, it has seemed that Sambo has won just about every notable fight, with the most recent being, of course, Islam Makhachev's domination against Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight belt. On paper, while this does seem that it would be a fairly competitive fight, I do believe that Umar will do what Umar does, which is dismantle Raoni with kicks, and seeing as how Raoni could potentially take him to the ground, I don't think that would be in his best interest. Raoni has only had decision victories since 2019, and I do not believe that he is going to have what it takes to put a stop on the tear that Umar Nurmagomedov is putting on the bantamweight division. I predict most likely it will be a round 2 finish. Now, up next, we have Kaitlin Vieira versus Raquel Pennington. Kaitlin Vieira is a Brazilian fighter in the women's bantamweight division. She is a jiu-jitsu and judo fighter. She is 31 years old with a record of 13-2. She's on a 2-fight win streak, being Miesha Tate, and most recently a rather controversial split decision against Holly Holm. Pennington is fighting out of Colorado, USA. She's 34 years old with a record of 14-9. She is riding a very nice 4-fight win streak, with Aspen Ladd being one of them. Her last loss was to Holly Holm in 2020. So if MMA math works out, Raquel lost to Holly Holm, Kaitlin beat Holly Holm, Kaitlin Vieira should beat Raquel Pennington. We'll see if the MMA math plays out. It is not always as accurate as you may think. In this fight, I'm looking for Kaitlin Vieira to somewhat make a statement. She did win against Holly Holm. Most people scored that fight for Holly, myself included. I'm looking for her to make a statement in this fight. This is essentially a number 1 contenders fight. I would like to see a finish. If I had to guess, I would say Kaitlin Vieira wins it by unanimous decision. With that being said, I would really, really like to see her chase a submission, maybe her first knockout in the UFC. And make no mistake, I'm not writing Raquel Pennington out of this. She is very dangerous on the ground, and she has a ton of momentum behind her, like I said, 4 fights. The only thing working against her is time itself. She is 34 years old. This is most likely her last run at the belt. Now up next is another fight that I'm super excited for, and you should be too. Protégé Soriano versus Roman Kopylov. Protégé is fighting out of Hawaii. This is in the middleweight division. He is a wrestler and a practitioner of judo. He is 30 years old with a record of 9-2. He's fighting out of Extreme Couture. He also has a performance of the night finish over Dolce Lungiambula. It was a 2nd round knockout. Roman Kopylov is a Russian middleweight stand-up fighter. He is 31 years old with a record of 9-2. In his 11 total fights, he has an 89% finish rate with 8 KOs. With that being said, he hasn't found the success he's been looking for inside the UFC. He is 1-2, with his 1 victory being a knockout, and his 2 losses are a decision loss and a submission. So that tells me if he cannot find Protégé's chin, he will most likely be taken down, controlled to the point of a decision loss, or submitted. Now on to our co-main event, Dan 50K Ige versus Damon Jackson. Dan Ige is 31 years old with a record of 15-6. He is unfortunately on a 3-fight skid and with 3 unanimous decision losses. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, a brown belt in judo, and looking to turn around this recent loss streak. Damon Jackson is 34 years old with a record of 22 wins, 4 losses, and 1 no contest. He is riding a 4-fight win streak, with the most recent being a performance of the night TKO over Pat Sabatini. He's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu and looking to continue this impressive streak. With the shine of the co-main event lights and a big name like Dan Ige, if Damon Jackson can get through tonight with an impressive finish, I feel like there's going to be big things in 2023 for him. With all of that being said, I am a Dan Ige fan, but I do think that Damon Jackson gets it done. The reason I think this is because Dan is on a 3-fight skid to 3 decision losses. I think he's too far into his own head. I think it's going to cause him to get caught either by a knockout or a submission by Damon Jackson. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the main event. Sean Strickland versus Nasruddin Imavov. Sean Strickland, who just fought only 3 weeks ago to a controversial decision against Jared Cannonier, has saved the card and agreed to step in last minute at a catchweight bout of 205 pounds. Sean Strickland is fighting out of the United States. He is a stand-up fighter with a strong wrestling background. He is 31 years old with an MMA record of 25-5. He did lose just 3 weeks ago to a controversial split decision to Jared Cannonier. Unfortunately, that loss does put him on a 2-fight skid, as his last loss was a knockout to middleweight current champion Alex Pieta. Nasruddin Imavov moved from Dagestan to France at the age of 9. He's 27 years old with a record of 12-3. He fights out of the MMA Factory with Fernando Lopez, notably the home of current heavyweight contender Cyril Gane and former gym of current heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou. So what do I think of this entire situation? First of all, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Sean Strickland. He was literally in a 5-round war less than a month ago. Let that sink in for a minute. 25 full minutes of combat 3 weeks ago. The man is probably still sore. He's definitely still sore. That is not a lot of time. However, mountain of respect aside, I do think that this is a massive mistake for his career and for his chances of getting a title shot. Nasruddin is 27 years old. He's incredible on his feet. He's incredible on the ground. He is prepared for this fight. This was to be the biggest fight of his career, and he's ready for that. But to be fair, not only did Sean Strickland accept a short notice opponent, so did Nasruddin. Neither of them are fighting at their preferred weight. This is a light heavyweight fight, 205 pounds. These men are used to fighting at 185-pound middleweight. It looks like as of today. So there definitely is a chance that Sean can win. However, I do give the edge to Nasruddin. I think he's most likely in better shape. He's younger. He's got momentum behind him. Everything is on his side for this fight, except for the pressure. This is a main event fight. Sean is used to them. Nasruddin is not. I don't know that we've ever seen Nasruddin in a 5-round fight. Things could be completely different. Like I said, I am excited for this main event overall. I think there's going to be a lot of good fights on here. There's going to be a lot of finishes. A lot of people are fighting with something to lose. Even though there's not a lot of strong name power on this card, I do expect this card to kick off the year in style. I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed.